Hi, everybody. I am Greg Underdahl with the Wild West Bass Trail, and goodness gracious, I am excited because we are talking, about the 2019 schedule right now. This is going to be a preview of the 2019 schedule, and I am with a veteran West Coast tournament angler, Lucas Oil Pro, Ken Ma. Ken, it's awesome to talk with you.
Hey, Greg. Excited to join you, and really excited the schedule that Wild West has put together for the 2019 Pro-Am circuit.
It's a great looking schedule. I mean, we're going to Lake Shasta, New Melones. That's a new one. The California Delta and the Championship, Clear Lake. I'm from California. I fish Clear Lake, and it is a phenomenal fishery. But honestly, you're looking at the 2019 schedule, they're all phenomenal fisheries.
Yeah, they really did a good job. I think since, this is the fourth year that Wild West has been in the West, and they have proven to listen to their anglers. They give surveys at the end of the year, and they really value that feedback. And you can look at the diversity of the schedule. Last year, 2018, we had a Pro-Am on Lake Don Pedro, and that hasn't happened. A major Pro-Am has not gone to Lake Don Pedro it's been at least 15 or 20 years to my recollection. And then this year, going to New Melones, same thing. We haven't been there in 10, 15 years for a major Pro-Am circuit.
Well, there's a lot going on in January. I mean, we got the team event this weekend coming up on Shasta. And speaking of Shasta, you were just there.
Yeah, actually, I just spent the last 3 days there, and just kind of a little bit of pre-practice. The team event is coming up next weekend. There's a 5-day off limits, which basically starts tonight at midnight. So I wanted to get a little bit of pre-practice in for that and for the Pro-Am coming up.
And let's talk about the off limits a little bit, because the off limits is kind of new. In my understanding, it's somewhat new to the West Coast. I mean, I think it's great personally, but talk about the off limits a little bit, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I shouldn't say new, it's new recent. Back in the day, when I say back in the day, again, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, there used to be off limits circuits that traveled. And then for a while there hasn't been an off limits. And Wild West, when it was first raised, 4 years ago now, they made it a focus, to have an off limits, because so much changes during that 10-day off limits period and during the Pro-Ams. I'm a fan of it. It takes a lot of pressure off the fishery, and then the local anglers are not able to sit on that fishery and dial it in.
Well, I mean, it levels the playing field, I would say. Just the fact that, the locals, I mean, they're, some locals can just, they have their finger on the pulse of a lake so well. And if you can have that off limits, I just think you're absolutely right. It just kind of, I like it too. I think it just levels the playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly, again, Wild West does a phenomenal job listening to its anglers, but when you look at the team and the Pro-Ams, the Pro-Ams are growing every year. And, last year with the teams in California, we averaged 162 teams across 4 events. And this year would not surprise me for us to average 175, maybe even 180 for the teams. Wow. And I attribute that a lot to, Wild West being established now in its 4th year, but also giving the California market exactly what it wants. We're seeing that the anglers are responding to the product.
Well, tell me, let's just kind of run through the schedule. We have Lake Shasta, the 25th through the 27th. We got New Melones, March 29th through the 31st. Then the Delta, that's the 26th through the 28th. And then the championship is on Clear Lake. That's my personal favorite. The 31st of May through June 2nd. So
Right.
Go through those fisheries and just kind of tell me what you're expecting.
You know, three of the fisheries we've been to, you know, Wild West has been to Lake Shasta in January 4 years in a row. And it's just, it's one of those fisheries in January. There's a tremendous amount of fish that are caught. You know, the city and the lake, they're very gracious to host us, you know, and it's just a fan favorite for people to go to in January. You know, like I was there the last 3 days, and you know, each day I've caught in excess of, you know, 35 to 40 keepers, pretty much doing whatever I want to do there. You know, and that's what you're going to see. You know, a lot of fish are getting caught. Co-anglers are going to catch a lot of fish, and those spotted bass in California, you know, they bite in the wintertime.
That's always nice, you know. So we have the Delta and then Clear Lake. So it's basically Shasta, the Delta, well, Malones, it's Shasta, Malones, the Delta, and then Clear Lake. Tell me about kind of what you're thinking as far as the Delta. We're going there in April. What do you think's kind of going to play out at that time?
Yeah, so you know, in January, like you said, you know, we're going to go to Shasta, which is a predominantly a spotted bass fishery. You know, and then in March we go to Maloney's, which we haven't been there in a long time, and I'm excited about that. You know, it's been some time since I've been there, and a lot of those mother lode anglers and the anglers that live south of the, you know, in the south part of the state, you know, they're chomping at the bit to have a chance of fishing a major event like Wild West Bass Trail on their home body of water. You know, and it's mixed there. You know, there's big largemouth there, and then there's also big spotted bass there at Maloney's. But going to your, you know, your focus, kind of your roots. I know you're California. Everybody.
Well, yeah, it's. I really want to. I want to hear your take on the Delta and then Clear Lake. I really do.
Yeah. So the Delta in April, it's going to be right in the middle of the spawn. And, you know, barring there being a weather, you know, it could easily take, you know, 25, you know, to 26 pounds a day. You know, so we're talking, you know, 72 to, you know, it could take 80 pounds to win a tournament. Yeah, it really can in April, especially if, you know, again, if Mother Nature doesn't throw a wrench in it. It's that kind of fishery. It can produce that kind of weight. But even on the low end, you know, if Mother Nature throws a monkey wrench in it, on the low end, it could still take, you know, 18 to 20 a day, you know, which is nothing to sneeze at on any fishery, you know, anywhere in the nation.
No. I feel like if you get over that 15-pound mark, you know, you're doing pretty good for a fishery. You know what I mean? That 15-pound mark has always been the mark for me where it's like, it's pretty solid, you know, but you get into 18 to 19 pounds, I mean, that's solid, really solid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, and then same thing with Clear Lake. You know, we're going there at a transition time, that late May, the championship, that late May, early June. The majority of the fish should be coming off of beds. The grass will start growing, and there'll be a lot of techniques in play in late May and June, as opposed to going there, say March or April, where, you know, although it's a big fishery, it tends to fish small between, you know, February and late May, you know, because a lot of the boats will pile up in the same areas, you know, where the fish are funneling in and out of. But when you get into that June time period, you know, topwater comes into play, you know, and it becomes more of a diverse fishery for the anglers.
Okay, we've run through the Pro-Am schedule for 2019, but we got Shasta. That's the first stop coming up. And like I said earlier, you were pre-fishing today for Shasta. Mm-hmm. I want to get your take on Shasta. Tell me about, like, you know, the patterns, historical patterns on the lake. And then let's just run through that first, and then kind of tell me how your day was today.
Yeah, so, you know, historically, we've had 3 champions there in 3 years, obviously. And the first year, Zach Elwright won. You know, Wild West was only a 2-day. It was only a 2-day event in year one. So you kind of look at that, Wade, and you don't, you consider it, but because it wasn't a marathon, you look at the last 2 years. And in 2017, Ryan Friend won, and he had a total weight of 40.54 for 3 days. So that's 15 fish over 3 days. And then Jeff Michaels won in 2018, and he had 34.27 for 3 days, 15 fish. So there was from 17 to 18, there was almost a 6-pound difference in what it took to win. And on a lake like that, a 6-pound difference is immense. That would be the equivalent of being on the Delta and having a 12 or 15-pound difference in the winning weight. So I do think that, if you look at, Ryan Friend averaged probably 13 and a quarter a day, whereas Jeff Michaels, averaged about 11 and a half or 11 and a quarter a day, over 3 days. So, for 2019, I would think that you're going to need to catch, at least what Jeff had last year. You got to get in that 35, 36-pound range to have a shot at winning.
What are like what the predominant patterns do you see? Like what do you kind of think is going to be the key pattern on Shasta coming up, or patterns? Well, I mean, I kind of like the idea of, Shasta's super clear, so it's typically, are you thinking finesse, stuff? Nico rigs. Just kind of tell me what's running through your head there.
Yeah, so Shasta predominantly is a clear water fishery, meaning clear. In January, there's parts of the lake where you can see down maybe, say, 10 to 15 feet, and it gets clearer in the summer. But then there's also parts of the fishery, like today, with the wind and the rain. There's parts of the fisheries where there's only 3 feet of visibility in the lake. So that will make the lake even more diverse. The guys like me that want to fish shallow and chase those individual big fish that are roaming those flats and points, that comes into play when the water gets stained or dirty, or if it gets windy. So it's a very diverse fishery. So to really answer your question, what predominantly is going to play? Obviously, a lot of down baits. Finessing. A Nico or Neko rigged 5-inch stick bait, a Cinco, a football head jig. A shaky head. Those types of baits, a drop shot, are going to be staple baits. Pros and a lot of co's should rely on baits.
What are fish doing that time of year on Shasta? Like what structure are they relating to?
Well, Shasta, it's a lot of rocks and bluffs and there's these beautiful red clay banks, and a lot of these big spots. That red clay warms up, and you'll catch a lot of these big spots that have that red clay on their belly. They're just bellied right down on that red clay to warm up. Yeah, it's still a winter pattern. It's not a pre-spawn deal yet there.
So typically, what depth are you targeting? Does it vary greatly? Or
Yeah, so it can vary, and I would say that the fish are anywhere from, I caught them as shallow on a spinnerbait in 4 or 5 feet of water, and then I caught a couple as deep as 45, 50 this weekend. So it really is varied that greatly.
Wow.
Obviously, people are going to get dialed into whatever their strength is. If somebody's really good at fishing deep and finesse, a guy like Greg Gutierrez, who's lethal with his shaky head, and at spinning rods, same thing with Jeff Michaels. They do other things also. I never want to pigeonhole.
Right.
Anglers they're tremendous at a lot.
So,
of things,
What's the water temp? I'm thinking like, is this suspending jerkbait ever in play on Shasta? That might be a stupid question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A jerkbait to play, swim baits, big swim baits, glide baits. There's a lot of big fish being caught on those types of baits, in January. So like I said, when it's really diverse, I mean, an angler can power them and win this event, but an angler can also, pull out a spinning rod with, 6-pound tests and wear you out. And that's what's so fun about the lake. It's not just one way. Like on a place like the California Delta, and it's going to sound a little arrogant, but I mean, I dare somebody, try to beat, us there with a spinning rod. I mean,
when you say us,
it's probably not going to.
You mean you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. There's some things on the Delta that you just don't. You're not going to do. You're not going to win like throwing a deep diving crankbait, and chances are,
right,
you're not going to win.
Of course,
you're not going to win throwing a spinning rod for 3 days.
You brought yourself up. Okay, so you were fishing today on Shasta. Tell me about how you did today, and then tell me about who you're worried, competing against.
Yeah,
at the end of this,
actually, the fishing was really good, but we had weather, and these spotted bass on these California fisheries, they love weather. Anytime you have rain, it's cloudy and it's windy, those fish are really active. So the Pro-Am is, I think, 15 or 18 days from now, and who knows what nature's going to bring. So things are going to change for sure, and then like we talked about, having the 10-day off limits will change even more, and then you get 2 practice days to kind of dial in what you have found. But the fishing was really good. Yesterday, I easily caught 40 or 50 keepers. Had somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 and a half pounds for 5 fish. And I would be thrilled to catch that on the first day of the Pro-Am, because that really, that's a great start. If you're going to try to average, if you need to get to 36 pounds, that's 12 pounds a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you catch 11 or 12 the first day, you're not behind, and you don't need to catch 14, 15 on the second day.
Right.
Because like Jeff did, you can, when Ryan won, he caught a really big bag the first day, and then he caught good bags next 2 days, and that's why he, won by a lot. But if you weigh 12, 12, and 12, and you get to 36 pounds, you'll have a shot at winning, and if not, you'll be, second, third. You'll make a run at it with that type of weight in January.
So, number one, if you had to say, what's going to be the number one player as far as a bait? I know that's kind of putting you on the spot. Maybe you don't want to talk about it.
No. Absolutely.
The one bait that's going to be the key.
And you're asking for me or for the field?
The field. What do you think's gonna? What do you think's gonna? I mean, I know that's tough, but
it's a tough thing. But if I had to pick, like if you were telling me, Ken, I'm going to enter the tournament. I've never been to Shasta. I want to go there, have a shot at winning, and catch a bunch of fish. It would be really hard to beat like a Nico rigged 5-inch stick bait. It's a staple.
Like
yeah, like a Cinco.
Yeah.
It's a staple bait. The Nico rig is just now catching national attention. But like you and I previously talked about, we've been throwing that bait in the West for a decade.
It doesn't surprise me. Everything starts. Think about it. Everything starts in the West. I mean, drop shotting.
A lot does.
Here's the other thing. What's funny? Nobody split shots anymore. What happened? Does anybody split shot anymore?
No, and even
What
Carolina
is
rigging
that?
is kind of a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
a lot of stuff does.
It
The
starts
West.
out west, and it's like everything, sort of. Everything starts in the west. Fads starts in the west, moves to the east. I mean, and of course, fishing's the same way. If you had to pick one angler that you're most concerned about, who is that angler?
There's a few of them, but obviously, if I had to pick one, it's hard to go against a guy like Jeff Michaels. He's won a couple of boats. He won last year's championship on that body of water. He's an FLW champion on that body of water. Obviously he catches them everywhere. But Jeff Michaels would be a huge favorite. I think if he doesn't make the top 10, he would be extremely disappointed, and we would be extremely surprised. But there's other guys that he's the obvious choice. It's kind of like picking who's the greatest basketball player on the planet right now. Well, it's easy to pick LeBron.
Right.
But there's some other guys. Some guys that do really well. A guy like Nick Salvucci. He finished second, I think, in 2017 when Ryan Friend won. And he had almost 38 pounds, and he power fished all of his fish. And he's a previous Lucas Oil champion. At Lake Mead. He won the Lucas Oil Championship, so he knows how to win. Obviously, Ryan Friend, and then two other names. Wayne Brazil. He's coming off arguably one of the best years that a Western Pro has had. And then of course Brian Smith. He's won the Lucas Oil Championship. We've had 2 Lucas Oil Championships. No, 3. Brian Smith's won 2 of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, it's the same names coming up every time, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean,
yeah, those guys, I would, out of those 3-4 names, obviously one of them is going to have a tough tournament like we always do. But 1 or 2 of those names, if they're in the top 10 vying for the championship on Championship Sunday, it's not going to be any surprise.
Well, I must say I am very, very looking forward to the Shasta event. Of course, I'm looking forward to all of the events. I lived in California for many years. I love the fisheries out there. I'm just super excited to be a part of the Wild West Bass Trail this year. And Ken, I'm looking forward to meeting you. I want to talk more with you. I know we're going to be doing more of this, having these conversations, but thank you for joining me today and, doing this Wild West Bass Trail 2019 preview. Are you excited?
I really am. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, like you said, January is a super busy time for Wild West Bass Trail. There's a California team event, there's a Pro-Am, and then there's a Lake Pleasant, Arizona team event, all kicking off in January. 2019, I think is going to be probably the biggest year so far for Wild West Bass Trail.
Yeah, amen to that. And hey, I'll see you at Shasta.
Sounds good, Greg. Travel safe.
Thanks so much for joining us for the 2019 Wild West Bass Trail preview show. I got to tell you, if you're on the fence, do yourself a favor, go to wildwestbasstrail.com and sign up for the Shasta event. You can't win if you don't compete. We'll see you there.